turn to Nancy Loucas. Nancy's the director of the Coalition of Asia Pacific Tobacco Harm Reduction Advocates, an old friend of mine. I would, let's not say old, because 3 years is not really, doesn't really count for me to even say that. But she's a tireless advocate for harm reduction in that space. And so I'm going to turn it over to you, Nancy. And
thanks,
can't wait to hear.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I'm here. Can you guys hear me? Yes? Okay, good. I'm going to take a bit of a turn off of talking about the problems and talk more about how we can better take care of ourselves. So I've got notes and I've been watching the chat to see what people are saying. So without any further ado, I'm just going to get into it. As everyone has said from the very beginning, as advocates, the work that we do is really hard on us. It's hard on our minds. It's hard on our bodies with exhaustion. And it's hard on our souls too, because of the constant attacks and the frustration. I can feel the frustration. So I wanted to break this down. One of the things that Ethan had said is that in this space, although I hate that term, but in this space, you have to think long term. Okay. There are short-term wins and there are losses, but ultimately it's the cumulative effect of the work in the long term that brings about change. And Ileana just brought that up as well. Okay. It's a marathon, not a 100-yard dash or a 100-meter dash, depending on where you live. So, the steps forward in your actual advocacy, it's because you're operating from a place of it's passion, it's personal, okay? The majority of us who have gotten involved in any form of advocacy, it's a personal thing. There's a wound, I'd like to say. We have either directly or indirectly been exposed to the harms that we're fighting against and that we're trying to eradicate in the world, okay? And because it's personal, we take the attacks that come at us and we take the lack of consideration and the lack of understanding. We take that personal because for us, our advocacy comes from a very personal place. And that makes things 1,000 times harder. But I do want to mention something else. People who work in the service field, doctors, nurses, police officers, fire people, EMT, they all suffer similar to what we suffer in terms of the frustration and dealing with the administrative bullshit and, the lies and the lack of consideration for the, I would say, collateral damage of bad decisions. Okay. So we're not alone. And that's the one thing I think we all need to understand is that we are not alone and there are challenges every day. Okay. The way to work around that, everybody has a different way, okay? But with advocacy and with doctors and with nurses, you can't take your work home with you, which is really kind of hard to do when you're working out off your dining room table or out of your spare bedroom, like I am right now, okay? So you have to find that place that Ethan mentioned in his talk about the cutoff, to be able to cut off and tune out, okay? Find what that is, because before you put on your advocacy cape, whenever that was, there was a life before that. And there were things that you enjoyed doing, and there were things that brought you joy. Find that, okay? And do that, okay? For me, it's, I contort myself into yoga positions and I play with plants and then I give them to Ileana to put in her apartment. But, you find that thing that enables you to tune out or turn off from the frustration and the anger, okay, that you have, because what'll happen is that will eat you up inside. And a lot of advocates, I've seen it. It eats them up inside and that's how they burn out. And really good people are damaged from this work. So you have to protect yourself. That's so, so important. I want to change a bit now to something else that's going to kind of seem strange, but maybe you'll understand it. And if you don't, obviously message me and I'll explain it to you. But the thing is this. You have to understand what you're up against, okay? And we all talk about, we're up against, a certain individual with the initials MB, or we're up against the WHO, or we're up against, this person or that person. Let's understand where they're coming from. And yes, I know it's a financial thing, so just follow me here, okay? in academia, I worked in academia. Ethan has as well. I'm pretty sure Charles has. In academia, there is a term called publish or perish. Okay. And in order to publish, you have to have funding for research to be able to publish your findings so that you don't perish in academia. So a lot of the people that work in tobacco, public health and tobacco in academia, okay, they got into that gig because they suffered or feel this, they have the wound. Let's just put it that way. Okay. They've lost someone. They have experienced, harm from tobacco, either directly or indirectly. They've lost a parent. They've lost a grandparent, a friend. Same would pretty much apply, when it comes to the rainbow community, because I can never get all the letters in. Okay. Somebody negatively impacted by HIV or, the drugs harm. Okay. The majority of people that are on the quote unquote other side have gotten into it for the same reasons that we have gotten into it. They've taken a different path. Okay. I think we need to remember that. This is where empathy comes in. This is where the place where you have compassion for your enemy, which sounds strange, but there's a reason I'm saying this. If you can understand where someone's coming from, then you know that what they're saying when they're calling you a tobacco company shill or a bot or whatever negative thing that they're throwing at you, it's not personal. Okay. It's really not personal. It feels that way because they're attacking you in your most vulnerable place, but it's not personal. And they're operating out of fear. Okay. Whereas we operate from passion, or we operate from, trying to make the world a better place and, giving somebody the option to do something that maybe they weren't going to be allowed to do because of their governments or some organization. Okay. They're operating from a place of, oh my God, I've got tenure. I've got to maintain my tenure or my pension plan or publish or perish. Okay. I'm not saying it's right. I would never condone a personal attack on somebody or unprofessionalism, but if you can understand where they're coming from, it makes it so much easier for you to not take what they're saying or doing personal. Okay. You can be angry about it. Hell yeah, you can be angry about it. But the thing is, you've got to take the high road. And that's probably the hardest thing that you can do. Okay. Is taking the high road. Somebody's calling you, these horrible things, and human nature is you immediately want to attack, right? You want to go and defend yourself. Okay. Don't. Choose your battles. Nick brought this up. Choose your battles. Stay focused, because a lot of times, a lot of these people operate, they can divide and conquer. If they can get an advocate to sit there and flip out on Twitter or social media or whatever it is, you see, no, you got to take the high road. Okay. And I've said this before to quite a few people, is that sometimes we have to show them how to behave. No, it's not our job. Of course it's not our job. But sometimes we have to do that, because when an outsider looks at the situation and they see a certain person who I'm not going to name, attacking people and calling them all these horrible names, and then they see the way the other person reacts. Well, who's the adult here? Okay. That's what we have to do. Now, somebody said something, and I've got a note here somewhere because I have so many notes. I take notes. I'm a note taker. Everybody knows this. So when you understand that, when you understand that the people that are attacking you out of fear, okay, which is a human condition, then you need to understand that that's on them and it's not on you. Don't own it. Okay. We own enough stuff. Okay. We don't need to take on other people's stuff. And that's something that we all do. Okay. And that's why CAPHRA, for example. Okay. When we set up CAPHRA, it was for people to, all of us, the advocates, to support each other and talk to each other. You've got somebody that you can talk to that understands what you're talking about. Okay. And somebody who's out there who maybe has a different level of experience or a different skill. Okay. And, working together and collaboratively working on the work. Okay. And that's something that I think we need to do globally. And we've started to do that a little bit with Scope, and we're going to keep doing that. Okay. But I may know something that you don't know. You may know something that I don't know. Okay. If we're not communicating and we're not talking and we're not supporting each other and we're all operating in these little bubbles, that's not going to work. That's not going to help anybody. It has to be a global movement. It has to be all of us working together towards the end game, understanding that it's a marathon. And if somebody needs to take a break and a breather, go for it. The rest of us will pick you up and we'll carry you. And then when you're ready, you come back, then the next person can take their break. And, this is how it works. It's a long game, but we have to take the high road, because it seems to me that a lot of these people that we're dealing with, and I also see it in the advocacy arena to a certain extent too, okay? They're operating from fear. And when people, like a caged animal, let's use that, caged animal. What happens with a caged animal? They flip out, okay? What happens with a toddler pitching a tantrum? If you react to that tantrum, they're going to just keep doing it, because any attention is good attention, okay? We don't want that kind of attention. We want people to look at us and say, hey, you know what? This person, okay, they're taking the high road. They're being an adult about it, because you can't have an adult conversation with somebody who's flipping out. You just can't. It doesn't work. It completely deconstructs the entire argument. And it's hard. But the main thing that you have to do wellness-wise, reach out to somebody, talk to somebody, okay? Tune out. Go cook a meal. My friend Murray, he's a doctor, okay? Here in New Zealand, COVID, thousands of cases, okay? It's just exploded over here. Every Sunday, he makes a point, sitting down with his family, get everybody in the kitchen, and he makes them dinner. That's how he re-energizes, okay? Find that thing and do it. You can walk away and come back. It'll still be there, okay? As someone else had mentioned, the science has finally caught up to what all of us have known, okay? The scientists are now speaking out. We've got Clive Bates. We've got Konstantinos Farsalinos. We've got Cliff Douglas. We've got Robert Beaglehole, okay? People who are experts, people who are, infallible in a way in terms of their experience and their knowledge, okay? They see what we see, and they're on our side. This battle has many different fields and many different arenas or theaters of war, let's just put it, okay? We do ours, they do theirs, we work together, the faster we'll get this done, okay? And I don't think, see, Paul's talking here, I go riding. Paul's a horse guy, Paul Blamer from Australia, okay? Remember something, if we always talk about meeting people where they are, right? We have to meet public health and the people on the fence and the people who are against us. We have to meet them where they are, okay? If we meet them where they are and we understand where they're coming from, we're not, like I said, we're not condoning the behavior, okay? But if we can understand it, that enables us to be able to possibly formulate a strategy to be able to reach them. Because as Clive has said, okay, we are the evidence. So we have to present that, hey, listen, it's my life, okay? Humanize it. Charles brought this up too. Humanize it, okay? And part of humanizing it is understanding the other perspective. And if you understand the other perspective, you may be able to talk them around. Some people, they don't want to because fear, pension, money, funding, research. Okay, leave them to it. Okay, leave them to it. But the more people that get on the boat, and they are getting on the boat, there are people in here in New Zealand that I never would have imagined would actually acknowledge that, nicotine's not the problem, and they do. But it's a long game. And in order to maintain for a long game, any marathon runner will tell you, you have to train and you have to rest. Because if you run your muscles too much, you're going to damage yourself. Train and rest. But also make sure that you understand and there are people out there that are doing the exact same thing that you're doing. And 9 times out of 10, if you pick up a phone or you send an email or you send a WhatsApp or a messenger message, we help each other. That's what we do. So I want everybody to really, really remember that. Take the high road, okay? Do no harm, but take no shit, okay? And understand we're dealing with fellow human beings. We don't want to emulate the behavior of those who are against us and who are causing harm. We should cause no harm. And that's pretty much what I have to say. So I hope that helped. I hope. Thanks, guys.
Oh, that was lovely. Thank you, Nancy. Listening to you, I was reminded of when I was in college. I was involved in an advocacy movement then on a subject that I won't mention here, but it was very woke, right?
Mm.
And I became very active, and I became very aggressive. Okay, I'm a male, so that's what we do. But and then I quit. And the reason I quit was because I did not like the negative things that it was bringing out in me. Like I didn't like what I saw in myself as I became aggressive against. I mean, this was not virtual. This was not online. This was face to face in demonstrations, and I will never forget that. Skip Murray has been like, she's one of the people who's, and I'm sure I hope she's listening, who's a conscience in the tobacco harm reduction field, guiding people to think, oh, okay, we should be respectful. Yes, you should respond with evidence. Yes, you should respond with human stories. Yes, you should tell your story, but not attack people. Because when you feel attacked, but the thing is, like, how do you do that? I mean, so this gets exactly at the burnout question. When some people have been doing this for years and years and years, and they see the same myths and the same, I saw Ethan holding back a bad word when he spoke a little while ago. The same BS, let's say, that you've heard over and over and over again. When you know that there's literally a bot farm pushing out disinformation on the other side, and I have no question about this anymore. And a war room that's deciding on the topic of the day, pushing out that disinformation, which is like, I hate to say it, but I'm just like, there's no other way for us to see it, but that it's literally leading to policies that are going to kill people. So it's really hard for us not to get aggressive in response to that. How, can you, I don't know, this is not even a real question. And you've already addressed it. You've said, be respectful, but how the hell do you avoid burnout when this is happening like day after day after day?
This is going to sound so trite, but this is kind of how I do it. I realize that it's a field of bovine effluent. You see what I did there? And the way you get around it is you have faith. You believe in what you're doing. Okay. So you strap on your gumboots or your Wellington boots, depending on what you are, and you walk through it and you keep walking because it's like Ethan said, it's a long game. You know that they're full of it. You know that you're on the side of right, just like Ethan said. You put on those gumboots and you walk and you keep walking. Okay. You don't pick it up and start throwing cow patties at people. No, they're throwing them at you. Okay. Wear a jacket. That's cool. But you don't sink to their level. It's the same thing we learned as kids. You don't sink to their level and you just keep going. The thing we have on our side is we have our science. The thing we have on our side is each other. Okay. And that's something they don't really have because it's so competitive, really. I mean, especially NGOs, very competitive for funding. Okay. Academia, very competitive for funding. There is not the kind of camaraderie and community that we have in those arenas. We have those things on them. People need to remember that.
So we have to keep climbing the mountain, as Nicholas said.
Yeah. Throw a rope down to help somebody come up.
Yeah, I mean, the fact is, in academia and in the NGO space that we inhabit, where there are some opponents, it's a zero-sum game.
Mm-hmm.
So for some of the organizations that we deal with, inflating the risks, exaggerating the harms, providing correct information but utterly out of context, that helps them get the next grant.
Yeah.
And then, and there's no conflict of interest there, but we are accused of having conflicts of interest all the time.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, the people that propagate the lies, Troop wrote this, the people that propagate the lies and the people that promote the disinformation, okay, they're doing it for personal gain. They're doing it for funding. It all boils down to the mighty dollar. Let's be honest, okay? They have allowed, they have allowed their own personal ambition to overshadow the original reason that they got into what they're doing, I think. And it's a sad situation where you have academia and research that people get involved in it. The people I work with were great, okay, and they had ethics and integrity, and they weren't trying to prove or disprove something in order to maintain their funding. And sadly, we live in a competitive world, and we live in the COVID world where, economics goes to the forefront. Everybody, is losing money, right? They will do whatever they have to do to maintain their relevance in order to maintain their livelihood. And sometimes, and in some cases, certain NGOs, who shall remain nameless, will do whatever they can do to maintain that relevance and that funding stream to the harm of the general population. And the only thing that we can do at that point is to continue to call them out when they do that. Again, long game. It's long game, Charles.
So I completely agree with you. The authority figures in that space, which you hate the word, but in that field, in our field, are influenced by those perverse incentives. I think however, I think that most people in that space are not. They're listening to those authority figures, and so they have their echo chamber, and we have ours.
Yeah, and we need to break that echo chamber.
And so when certain things are said that are demonstrably untrue over and over and over again, and you just see them and their screaming headlines in the news, then you just go, well, that must be true. And that we creep into the whole thing that's going on with news and information and disinformation. Is very definitely not unique to the health.
It's the court of public opinion. Things are being tried in the court of public opinion, and the people that have the power to influence that, the media, let's just say, the fact that they're trying so hard tells me, maybe I'm crazy, it's possible, tells me they're scared. They're afraid because they see the end is coming. They see that they're going to get...
Sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Didn't mean to cut you off. So Jeff, do you have a comment or a question for Nancy?
Yes, based on something that Tom Gleason said on the chat, he talks about personal attacks and how, advocates of, and I think that pretty much happens on every aspect, human rights, harm reduction, drug harm reduction, or anything related. You, Nancy, how do you deal with that personal attack and how you can keep the empathy while maintaining an argument?
Because I understand that when somebody is personally attacking me, that means they've run out of actual valid arguments. So, at that point I realize, okay, if you have to sink to the level that you have to personally attack me, this discussion is over. Because now you've run out of any counter to anything I've said. So I take that as a win. And maybe that's perverse of me, but that's how I deal with it.
All right.
Jeff, Charles.
So again, thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
And this has been a really great discussion. I want to thank all of the speakers.